time here today talking about a whole bunch of things. We're going to take your questions. So if you haven't sent your questions in yet, we're going to try to get to all the questions while we're on this live. But we're here to celebrate a milestone. And that milestone is we're about to tick over 500,000 subscribers. And here at the Captain Steeeve channel, we are immensely grateful to all of you who have subscribed to the channel, who have participated in what we've been doing over the past year, who have sent in comments and questions. And it's really been a wonderful journey. And honestly, the growth of this channel caught a lot of us by surprise. You know, when you start a YouTube venture or anything on social media for that matter, it's a lot of luck involved. You don't know whether it's going to take off. People are going to be interested. And then you got to kind of keep at it. And you really got to put out a good quality product. You got to be at it on a consistent basis. If you're not, the algorithm, as we call it, is probably not going to reward you for that. But we've been very successful at this in no small part thanks to you. And so we want to return some of that love to you today as we go live. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to do your questions. I've got a live ticker in front of me as we tick up towards 500,000 subscribers. When we get there, I'll let you know, and we'll celebrate that moment. One of the things I think that's important about celebrating moments like this in life is that there's little milestones and markers that we need to put down in life that we don't. You know, we miss so many things in life that we just need to slow down and pause and say, hey, let's celebrate this moment. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take your questions. We're going to celebrate that moment when it happens here, hopefully within the next, I don't know, half an hour or so. And then we're going to talk about how we do what we do here at Captain Steeeve. And it's not just me. As you can see, I've got a very nice studio around me. And I'll introduce you to some of the folks behind the scenes. We'll talk about some of your compliments over the past year and some of your criticisms over the past year. That's fair game. One of the things I really enjoy about this channel from my perspective is I'm constantly learning. And so as I'm sharing my thoughts on aviation accidents or incidents or something that's just in aviation news with all of you, your feedback to me has been incredible. It's been invaluable, in fact. And so we pour over all those comments. And on occasion, I've come and made a correction. And you know what? I don't always get it right. And I don't pretend to always get it right. We want to make sure that we're accurate to the extent that we can be. But I think we provide an important service here, and that is this. At a time, and this has really been an unprecedented time in aviation history the last 6 to 8 months, people want a reassuring voice. So the aim of this channel is to be informative, educational, and a little bit snarky. We throw in a little bit of fun and good humor when it's appropriate to make it fun and entertaining. I think we just don't laugh enough as a people. Now, there are some very serious things that we've dealt with on this channel, and certainly here in the last 24 hours, we dealt with a very serious topic of Air India 171. None of that is a laughing matter, but there are some other things that go on out there that are worthy of, a good chuckle and so forth. So many of you have shared with me how you feel more reassured about flying on an airplane. After you watch a few Captain Steeeve videos, you say, hey, I feel better about getting on an airplane. And if we've helped move that needle just a little bit, we've been successful. So I'm going to jump into your first question here in a minute, but let me give you a little insight to the Captain Steeeve thing. All right, where did that come from? So about a year ago, my son, who's a film producer, he owns 541 Co. in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area. He's been at that for, I think, about 14 years. He's got a very successful business built for himself. I am one of his clients. And so last year, he said, hey, Dad, he goes, when you go to work, he said, take your phone with you and just make some short videos on what you do. And so I did. I made some 60, 90-second videos, sent them to him, and we put them out on this YouTube channel. And we just crossed our fingers to see if there'd be any response. And there was an almost overnight favorable response to the videos. So it's like feeding a cat at your back door. I'm going to keep coming back. If you click on a Captain Steeeve video, I'll keep coming to your back door. And so we put out more videos and more videos. And then we were putting out a video every day. And then we were doing some special stuff. And then we started doing long form things. Now it's really become a full-time job. So many of you have heard I'm going to retire in about 4 months. Are you concerned that Captain Steeeve on YouTube is going to go away? No, quite the opposite. Once I get that extra time back in my life, we're going to do even more stuff here. So Captain Steeeve, the YouTube channel, is not going anywhere anytime soon. So the evolution of Captain Steeeve, on those first few videos at the end, I just kind of ended it with, well, now you know I'm Captain Steeeve. for fun, right? Fly safe. I did that for probably the first dozen or so videos. And then I thought, well, I'll get away from that. I'll be more serious, you know, and I didn't do it. And oh my word, the comments got flooded in. Hey, I waited till the end of the video. What happened to the Captain Steeeve thing? So it became a thing. And so now I'm stuck with that. And as I see you at the airport, there's lots of Captain Steeeve sightings. People come up to me and they go, are you? And I go, Captain Steeeve. And they go, yeah. And then they say Captain Steeeve. And it's just fun. It's just good natured fun. That's all there is to it. Okay. So let's do this. The questions are pouring in. And as you're thinking of one, go ahead and submit it. And hopefully we'll get to it. But right now, the first question is, did you ever dream of becoming an astronaut piloting the space shuttle? What little kid growing up in America didn't? Absolutely, I did. I was 9 years old when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, and it was one of the first nights I was allowed to stay up late and watch the TV. And oh my word, what a dramatic moment that was. That's what I call a gee whiz moment in life. I think we've lost a lot of that in our culture, and I would love to get some of that back. But yeah, I would love to have been an astronaut. I think that ship has sailed for sure. But wow, what a lot of work. And astronauts are absolutely amazing. I would have loved to have flown the space shuttle. And by the way, if there's anybody out there at NASA that's listening to this and you want to put it like a YouTube influencer in outer space with you, I'd love to go. I'd love to have the ride. I did do some work for NASA back in the day, back in the mid 90s. NASA hires commercial airline pilots for experiments. And so some of the stuff that we actually are doing in airplanes today, I helped experiment with back in the 90s, and they'd hire you for the day. I didn't show up in my little pilot outfit or my little astronaut outfit. I wish I could have, but it was fun being part of that process. All right. The second question is this. Captain Steeeve, did you ever comment over the PA system that we must have good garbage on a delayed flight in May of 2024 from Charlotte to London? No, I don't recall that one. That's a strangely specific question. I do have some fun with my PAs, but I don't recall ever commenting about the garbage. Sorry, I can't help you with that one. All right. Next question. Have you ever flown a plane that is not a 777, not including the Navy? Yeah, many airplanes. So I got started in the Navy. Let's start there. I didn't have any flying experience. I'd never stepped foot on an airplane. I got hired by the United States Navy with no experience. They put a uniform on my back, gave me a paycheck, and gave me all the flight experience. I flew the T-34 Charlie. I flew the Beechcraft King Air next. I ended my career flying the P-3 Charlie Orion aircraft. I went back and flew T-44s as an instructor. And then I got hired by my airline shortly after that. And then as I got hired with the airline, I became a 727 engineer. That's the third wheel up in a 727. I went from there to the right seat of the 757 and 767 airplanes. I love that platform. I love my Boeing products. Boeing makes a terrific airplane. I know, folks, I know Boeing has taken it on the chin a lot recently, but I think a lot of that is hype and hyperbole. I love Boeings. That's just my personal aspect on that thing. And then I went from the 7.6 and 7.5 to the right seat of the Boeing 777 and then to the left seat of the Boeing 777. And that's where I am today. 777 Captain Steeeve. And that's my aircraft background. All right. One more question, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff. Somebody says, I got the keychain. All right. Yep. Here it is. The keychain. Thank you. Hopefully you are more rested up. Yeah. I just came back from Athens yesterday, and we wanted to get that video out about Air India. And so I spent a lot of time talking to a lot of pilots yesterday. I spent time going over video and watching news reports and kind of doing my own deep dive, as deep as you could get into what happened so far with that incident. And then we went out last night with a video. It's gone viral on YouTube. And I've done a bunch of interviews with Indian news outlets here this morning. But somebody was talking about the keychain. And so let me digress to this for a minute. We've got merch for you, the Captain Steeeve merch. And this says, I'm Captain Steeeve, fly safe. It's reminiscent of a remove before flight tag that they have on the airplanes. And so this is something that is just fun. You can use it as a keychain. You can use it as a luggage identifier. Everybody's luggage looks the same these days. And so you can just show your Captain Steeeve pride by clicking that link tree down below in the description and then following the trail to buy one of these or a couple of them for your friends. And we'll ship them out to you the very same day, all right? And they're pretty inexpensive. as it goes. And the other is the lanyard I wear all the time. And some of you at work, you wear a lanyard around, and show your Captain Steeeve pride. It says, I'm Captain Steeeve, fly safe. It's a really very nice lanyard. I use this on a daily basis, and it's held up very, very well. And again, it's available at that link down below. So enough on that. All right. Next question. Assuming talk turns to the Air India tragedy, could you explain the only circumstances in which the rat could deploy on a 787? Thanks as always. So what's the rat? The rat is called the Ram Air Turbine, and it's a kind of a last resort for an aircraft that would lose both engines. So on a dual engine aircraft, there's towards the back of the airplane underneath, there's a big door underneath the aircraft. And inside of it is this thing that looks like, when it's deployed, it looks like a outboard motor on a little boat on your Boston whaler. It looks like an Evinrude. It's got a propeller on it. And if both engines fail simultaneously and you lose complete power, and you would lose all electrics as well and hydraulics at the same time, that's a disaster on an airplane. The rat automatically deploys. So it comes down, it gets into the airstream, and however fast that airplane's going, that rat spools right up. It gives you hydraulic and electrical, limited hydraulics and electric, so you can talk on a radio, and you can manage to fly the airplane. There's been some speculation about that Air India flight that the rat deployed. I can't see that in the video, but the video is very poor quality and very grainy and from a long distance. Could it have deployed? If both engines failed, it would have deployed. I just simply don't see it. Now, in the days to come, the black box information is going to reveal whether it was deployed or not. If it did, that meant both engines failed. I don't think personally that both engines failed. I think the wing just lost lift due to another factor, which would be the flap configuration. But again, we're going to find out in a day or two. If you want more detail on that, just look for, on this channel, look for the latest video I put out on Air India 171. It's only 17 minutes, but I go into detail about what I think happened on that flight. All right. Great question. All right. Captain Steeeve, love your channel and how informative you are. Thank you. I'm glad it's informative for you. My question for you is, which airport has the best ATCs, whether coolest voices, funny lines, etc.? Keep up the great work. Well, New York's JFK is famous. They're absolutely famous. And I don't know if you can hear the rain outside, but we're in a metal building, and it sounds to me like applause. So if you're hearing the background noise, just think of it as applause for Captain Steeeve, all right? But New York's JFK, there's plenty of attitude there. And I was based there for most of my career. So probably 20 years altogether of a 34-year career at my airline. So I've talked to all the air traffic controllers at JFK, and boy, they're spunky guys, man. They get right to the point, and if you don't toe the line, they let you know it. And so a lot of the foreign carriers come over, they're speaking a second language. It does get comical at times. And to say that some of the JFK controllers are short-tempered, they don't ever get angry, but they do get frustrated, and it comes across on the airwaves. Chicago's O'Hare is another one where they're all about business all the time. And so you don't usually get to mix it up with them. It's very professional. But yeah, there are some stories out there for sure. Now, let me look at the next question here. Do you ever get nervous flying in the clouds by instrument and you can't see anything at all? No, I don't. But again, I've been at this for 40 years now. When I was first learning instrument flight, was it challenging? Yeah, sure. One of the things they teach you right away as a pilot is to believe your instruments. Why do they say believe your instruments? You need to believe them because your inner ear can get off. You can get vertigo, and vertigo is very insidious. It'll feel like the room is spinning, so much so that you almost have to close your eyes and just grab something. And so if that happens in an airplane, let's say you get a blockage in an inner ear, and you start to get that vertigo feeling, you can't even look at the instruments. Your eyes won't focus on anything. The best example I've got for what this looks like in real life is when you were a kid at camp for the summer, and they played that game where they had a baseball bat and you put your forehead on the end of it, and you ran around the baseball bat about 10 times in a circle, and then you had to run in a straight line over a finish line, and you simply couldn't do it. You ran this way and that way, and then you fell down and everybody laughed. That can happen in an airplane. So at this experience level, no, I don't really get nervous, but I do respect what's going on. And I do respect the fact that you got to be aware of your health. You got to be aware of, do you have a head cold that day? And don't go flying if you do, because you could have one of those episodes. And again, every commercial airliner has at least 2 pilots up there. So if one has a problem, I'm going to say to the other pilot, your aircraft, I'm having a little vertigo, and the other pilot's going to take over. And it works out really, really well. It's very, very safe. And so, and let me talk about that for a minute, because there's been a lot of stuff in the news in the last 6 months. And I read your comments, and a lot of people go, I'm just not getting on an airplane again. I'm just so nervous. Flying an airplane is still the safest way to go. And I can say that to you. I know how it goes. Up here, you know it's true. Here is the problem, right? Because we watch airplanes crash, and then we think, I'm just not going to get on an airplane. But you get in your car and you drive to that airport. You get in your car and you go get groceries, or you get in your car and you go someplace else. You know what? They don't show you all the car accidents every day. They couldn't. There's so many. That's the point. And then unforced medical errors, when people go to the hospital, they just don't report all of that stuff. That is dramatically higher than anything that ever happens in an airplane. An airplane is extremely safe, mostly because of the culture that goes into piloting. And it took me 10 years to get the minimum qualifications to become an airline pilot. And then I sat as a co-pilot for almost another 30 before I fleeted up to captain. So, talk about a lot of experience to get to that point. You're in good hands when you fly. When you fly with me over to Europe, there's 3 pilots on every flight, and usually combined, the 3 of us have over 100 years of flying experience. And I let all the passengers know that when I get my PA, I say, hey folks, just to let you know, you're in good hands today. The 3 of us have a little over 100 years of combined flying experience. So my friends, feel free to come flying. It's safe. It really is. And if you're concerned about that, when you get on the airplane, ask to go talk to the pilots. They'll be gracious to you. They'll put your mind at ease. And in that vein, we've got something coming up for you. My producer, Peter, and I have been spending a few months researching and then filming a overcoming your fear of flying course. All right. Are you interested in that? We've got 10 episodes, I think, altogether, 10 sessions, and we're going to offer that up here in just a few more weeks. We got to get the final touches put on it. We've got to get all the links to work properly, but it's going to be a downloadable product that you can purchase yourself, and it's going to be really inexpensive. It won't, probably a little bit more than a couple of cups of coffee, really. Or you can send it to your friends that are nervous flyers. That would make a great gift for them. And so we'll make that available, and you'll hear all about it when it's available on the Captain Steeeve channel. And again, you can just click the link below and purchase that Overcoming Your Fear of Flying class. It's excellent. I'm really, really excited about how well it turned out, and I think you'll be excited about it as well. All right, so more details on that as we move forward. Okay, so now let's.
Dr. Steeeve.
Ooh, that's the producer. There's a question from Dr. Steeeve. Let me see. Is it the last one on the list, or? Okay.
I just wanted you to know who it's from.
Oh, from Dr. Steeeve. All right.
Talk about stolen power.
Yes. I'm Dr. Steeeve. And now, are you Dr. Steeeve or just one E Steve? That would be fine. You should train all the younger pilots graduating now so that they can all be like you after you retire. Dr. Steeeve, you need to come and talk to the fair and lovely Mrs. Captain Steeeve, okay? And let her know about all that. But yeah, I understand the sentiment. And there's a lot of talk about pilot retirement age these days. It's been set in stone for a long time. At first it was age 60, which was ridiculous. Then they upped it to age 65, which is still semi-ridiculous because it's not based on anything hard or fast based in the truth. You don't mysteriously on your 65th birthday, which is 4 months away, all of a sudden become unsafe overnight. There are interests that are trying to keep age 65 the way it is because it's mostly younger pilots that want to move up faster. So again, follow the money trail on all this. The older pilots have the experience, and it's mind-numbing to me to believe that somehow a pilot who is physically fit, cognitively healthy, that can pass their check rides with 40 years experience are somehow less safe than the same pilot that is cognitively fit, healthy, and it only has 4 years experience. It doesn't pass the smell test. And so, my friends, Congress sometime this year, maybe in the next 12 months, is going to be considering raising or eliminating the pilot retirement age. We will come to you with that information at the time. I'm all in favor of eliminating it altogether. If you can pass your physicals and you can pass your cognitive tests, not everybody ages at the same rate. Leave that up to your aeromedical examiner and leave that up to your individual airline. It shouldn't be a thing that Congress mandates as a one-size-fits-all solution. We've got a pilot shortage. We need experienced pilots in the cockpit. All right. So thanks for the question. That's really good. All right. How do you keep your family life balanced? I get to ask that all the time. And look, if you don't want to live out of a suitcase and you don't like constant travel, don't become an airline pilot and don't get into the airline industry. I've never minded living out of a suitcase. I do enjoy the travel. The fair and lovely Mrs. Captain Steeeve comes with me on a whole bunch of trips. And you know what? When I'm at home, I'm completely at home. I don't bring work home with me. It's not like I'm bringing a bunch of reports that I got to type into the middle of the night. A lot of dads, if you will, it's Father's Day tomorrow. They bring work home with them. A lot of moms do these days too. And even though they're there, they're not there, if you understand what I'm saying. I was always there when I was at home. And it's surprising, if you know an airline pilot in your neighborhood, you're going to scratch your head and say, does that guy ever go to work? Yeah, he does. But when he's gone, he's gone. When he's back, he's completely back. And so we just found a nice work-life balance. For a lot of my career, I bid what's called reserve at the airlines. And when you're on reserve, you're on call to fill in for another pilot that for whatever reason can't make it. You get paid a set salary for that month, and you may not fly at all. You may fly once or twice. You usually fly about half schedule, but you still get paid the same. So now a lot of guys don't like reserve because you can't drink, you can't make plans, you can't have people over for dinner. You have to be available to drop what you're doing and run to the airport at a moment's notice. That was annoying at times, but you know what? We found that balance in life, and I think anybody can, right? You just have to be upfront about the whole thing. All right. Next question. Hey, Captain Steeeve. Is it true that females make less money than males if they are a captain? And what is the best way to become a pilot if you are in high school years? Thanks. Okay, the answer to that, if that's a rumor out there, it's absolutely not true. My contract is a union negotiated contract, and it's irregardless of what your gender is. It's based on the seat that you occupy, on the size of airplane, and your seniority at that airline. So my airline maxes out at 12 years of seniority, so there are incremental raises up to that 12th year. Once you get to the 12th year, you're maxed out on these yearly raises. Then to get a raise, you have to either go from the right seat to the left seat or to a larger airplane. Females and males, it's absolutely identical. Nobody gets paid any differently, all right? Now, the other question is, what about becoming a pilot in your high school years? Some things have changed in your favor, all right? They used to require a 4-year degree. When I got hired, you had to have a 4-year degree, and you almost had to have 20/20 vision as well. A lot of those things have changed over the years. There are cadet academies, and I think all the major airlines have some form of cadet academy where they will assist you through the process of getting all of your pilot's license, all of your hours, and then they will guarantee you an interview at one of their regional wholly owned subsidiaries, like Republic Airlines is a Envoy is another one. Those are some of those. SkyWest is another. And so if you want to become a pilot, you got to be diligent and you got to get at it. Now, there's going to be most likely some debt you accumulate when you go through school. Those airlines don't pay off your debt, but right now, currently, this could change. Most of those regional carriers are offering signing bonuses, and some of them are real big, maybe even big enough to pay off your entire student debt to get your tickets. So again, seniority is everything in an airline. The sooner you get at it, the sooner you get your license, the sooner you build your hours, the sooner you're going to get that high seniority number, and the higher the better. So it'll stay with you for the rest of your career. So knock yourself out. And if you're not sure, just go pay for a flying lesson or two and see if you like it. Right? Fair enough? All right, next question. Let's see. On a Boeing 787, warnings go off if flaps are not set as per calculations. What if inadvertently the calculations are themselves erroneous and show flap 0 to be set where flap 15 is required no warnings, not a possibility. All right. It's an actual mechanical thing as well as the sensors as well. There's redundancy behind redundancy. And it's not just based on where the flap handle is set. It's based on where the actual flaps are. So it double checks both of those. Is the flap handle in the proper position? Is the flap set in the proper position? And then the computer also has programmed into it what the flap setting should be for that particular day on that particular aircraft. And again, talking about Air India, we've talked a lot about, did they take off without flaps? Were the flaps up when they took off? It's absolutely inconceivable that that could have happened. There are 2 electronic checklists that both remind you to put the flaps down to the proper preset position. Those are integrated into the airplane. It's not like a paper checklist that you could inadvertently skip that step and just have forgotten about it. You can't proceed on with the checklist without clicking it off in the computer, and both pilots are part of that process. You would have to go in and do checklist override, not once, but twice, for some unexplained reason. There's no real reason not to lower the flaps. And then once you take the runway, the airplane knows exactly where you are. If you haven't completed a checklist, as soon as you go over the whole short line onto the airplane, onto the runway, you get a little warning on the screen that says checklist incomplete. That's the first warning you get. Then if you push power up to take off, the airplane knows that you're trying to take off and you're not configured properly. You get a huge red, it says config warning on the ICAS screen in front of you. Both master caution lights, they're right here in front of both pilots. Both master caution lights go off and a deafening horn goes off, and you can't get the horn to stop until you pull the power back and you get the airplane configured properly. It's completely inconceivable that the pilots overrode both checklists and they somehow ignored all those horns to take off and just to die a few minutes later. We can rule that one out pretty quickly. I would be shocked if that's what happened. Now, I'm always opening up the door to some possibility. Anything at this point is possible because we don't have the information from the black box and what was actually physically going on with the airplane. Hopefully we'll get that in about a week or so. Let me talk about one thing. We're at 498 and a half. And so we got about 1,500 subs to go to get to that magic 500,000 mark. And we'll get there here pretty soon because we've been accumulating a lot of subs in the last day or so. Let me talk about something that many of you commented about. And you've asked about sponsors. We now sell ad time on it. Now, if you watch us on YouTube, YouTube has their ads that they put on. And if you don't have YouTube Premium, you do have to endure ads that YouTube just throws in. But they do that with every platform, every video that's on YouTube. Why? Because YouTube's got to make money in order to bring this content to you. So that's the first biggest entity. Now, in addition to that, some YouTube influencers, some channels will sell their own products. They'll have sponsors on their program. We have made the choice to go with sponsors. Why? Because it's expensive to do what we do. And if I can get Peter to come over here, Peter's our producer, and Peter's sitting here.
Hey,
he's always here. Peter's got to get a paycheck, right? Me, not so much, but in 4 months from now, I'm going to be retired and I'm going to need a paycheck. So those are 2 things, right? We don't do this for free. And then all this stuff. And Peter, can you go behind the camera and show them, right? They're just seeing me on the set, but zoom out and you can see, all of the kind of stuff behind the scenes, right? All of this stuff costs money and it's expensive. It's not inexpensive to have a good, viable YouTube channel. We're not just a couple of kids walking down the street with our iPhone out and publishing TikTok videos when we can, although we do have a TikTok channel as well. But this is a little bit different on YouTube. It's expensive to get out a good quality product and to do it on a regular basis. So this is a full-time job, and we have many other people behind the scenes. A shout out to Owen. Owen is the guy that does our graphics. So when you see a Captain Steeeve video and there's an actual real airplane flying in the scene, there's somebody that creates that graphic for us. It takes hours and hours to do that. And so he is really good at what he does, but he's expensive. He's not cheap, and he deserves his pay. We've got Chaz. When you see the Ask the Captain episodes, those Ask the Captain episodes are produced by a guy out in California named Chaz. And shout out to you, Chaz. Chaz does a great job with those, but there's a lot of production that goes into that. Chaz has a family and he's got to put food on the table. So everybody's got to get paid. This space that we're in right now is not inexpensive. We're in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area, and things are pricey here. And so in order to get a quality product out on a regular basis, we've got to produce some income for this channel. We try to do it responsibly. We don't try to be intrusive with it. You'll notice that if there's ever a video that we do that involves any loss of life, we do not do a personal sponsor on any of those. We want to be respectful to the people who were impacted by those accidents. Wow, if we're doing something that's a little bit more lighthearted or it's a little bit more informational, yeah, we'll throw in an ad. And you know what? You've always got the option that when the ad starts, you can just kind of fast forward through it if you don't want to watch it. We're going to introduce something soon called Ad Airlines, right? And Ad Airlines is going to be a lot of fun. You're going to actually want to watch the ads. And if you think, they're boring, these are actually going to be really, really entertaining because you're going to look forward to the ad coming. All right, just trust me on this. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So now, having said that, let me do a shout out to our current sponsors. Factor Food is somebody that invested in us. We'd love to continue on with Factor. Incogni, you see Incogni ads everywhere. Incogni is great because they basically go after all those data brokers that are out there trying to steal your information. And they do it on your behalf. And all you got to do is sign up, answer a few questions, and get them going. And they're like the pit bulls of going after people who are trying to steal your data. So now, if you're that person who loves to have your personal data stolen and used against you, then you don't want to do anything with Incogni, all right? But if you're like, maybe like the rest of us who are super annoyed at getting on some spam lists and all that, let Incogni do the fighting for you, right? It's relatively inexpensive, and what you get in return is absolutely valuable, right? So we love Incogni. My heritage, I found a whole lot about my family tree, and you know what? I don't have the time to do all that research. My heritage does it for you, and it's fascinating. I get emails all the time from them updating me on my family tree, and as soon as I see a My Heritage email, I open it up right away because I want to learn more about my family. Just absolutely fascinating. AG1, my wife loves AG1. I'm on the road, so I take the travel packs with me, and we'd love to have AG1 come back. It's good for you. It's a supplement. And again, my wife is religious about taking her AG1. So we're glad that they're a sponsor. Sunday's Dog is one of them. And my dog, Dixie, loved it. You got to see, hopefully there's more ads to come with Dixie. Dixie and Daisy are my two dogs. And I just love them. They're doodles, and you can't say anything bad about doodles. Don't say anything bad about my doodles. All right. Now, hand heart. I always wear a hand heart on my wrist. And here's how we got connected with hand heart. I own a hand heart, and I own two hand hearts now. The fair and lovely Mrs. Captain Steeeve, 2 years ago for my birthday, bought me a hand heart. It's a very nice watch. It's a precision German instrument. I've had this hand heart now for a month or so. I turned the chronograph feature on it over 2 weeks ago. I turned it on. It's been on constantly for 2 weeks. This watch has gained 3 seconds in 2 weeks. This is a precision instrument, and it's handsome. I love these things. They reached out to us when they saw this hand heart, and they said, hey, can we connect with you guys and sponsor you? Much more to come with hand heart. I don't want to let this cat out of the bag prematurely, but we've talked about it a couple times. Looking at my producer, no, he's shaking his head. All right, there's something exciting coming up with hand heart that I'm thrilled about, that I'm getting to know. We can't talk about it yet. As soon as we're allowed to talk about it, I will share it with you. Don't mean to tease, but we love hand heart. And then finally is ground news. And, it's impossible these days to get away from politics. We try not to get into that stuff here at the channel. We don't want to mix it up with that. I think you come to this channel to get away from the daily grind of this side against that side and the vitriol that's out there. But we do want to get every view before we go public with something we're talking about that is in the news cycle, right? And ground news is great with that. They basically do all the analytics on where the story's coming from, who's got the bias, who doesn't have the bias. And trust me on this. You might say, oh, Steve, you're conservative, or Steve, you're liberal. Don't worry about any of that. Ground news will help you basically kind of cut through all the garbage. And we're really, really excited to be partners with Ground News, and you'll see more about them coming down the pike. All right. So let's go back to the questions. We're just about to 499 here. We got just a little over 1,000 to go, and this is going to happen quickly. So bear with me on this. All right. Let's see. Captain Steve, have you ever had to do a Mayday call or had to make an emergency landing in your career? Hi from Houston. All right. Hi from Houston. The answer to that is yes. Now, most of that was in my Navy days. I flew an airplane called the P-3 Orion, 4-engine turboprop airplane, an older technology designed back in the 1950s. and things would go wrong on that. The airplanes were very reliable, but when things would go wrong, you would have to declare an emergency on that airplane, and we did on several occasions. I've only ever once at American Airlines declared an emergency, and that was a pan. There's a video I just put out recently about the difference between pan and mayday. And I have to tell you, it was the A340 video, and the comments section got hot. You guys lit up immediately on that one. And there were two schools on that one. There was Captain Steeeve for president, and there was Captain Steeeve should never fly an airplane ever again in his entire life. And there was hardly anybody in between. I made a correction video. We're going to put that out in a few days from now, but world events have been precluding us from putting that video out. I made some corrections, deletions, and additions, right? Captain Steve's not too proud to admit when he's wrong, or if he's got something to add or to correct something. You know what? I'm learning while you're learning. That's one of the beautiful things about this channel, right? I have not arrived for sure. Okay. So just bear with me on that. But yeah, we did a pan going into London 2 weeks ago. And I'm here to tell you, we do a pan over in Europe. We had a passenger in the back that was a type 1 diabetic. Their blood sugar spiked. Their insulin pump stopped working. They didn't have a backup with them. We do have insulin in the medical kit on the airplane. There were some nurses on board that gave her some insulin. We got her kind of under control, but you want to get that person to medical attention as quickly as you possibly can. We declared a pan, and we got priority right into London, right? Any of you folks that fly into London, you always go into holding and turn for a few minutes. Then you get in the queue and you come in. They told us to go as fast as we could for as long as we wanted to. So that means even below 10,000 feet, we were doing 310 knots until we turned base onto final. And then we got the flaps and the gear out and we slowed down and we came in for a landing. So thanks to the air traffic controllers over in London, you guys do a great job. There's a pan call. Okay. Yep. We've got just under 1,000 subscribers to go. And if you're thinking that's going to take a long time, it's not. We're probably going to go over 500,000 in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm predicting. But let's go back to some of your questions. All right. Question. Have you ever been in a situation that was potentially dangerous while flying? Yeah, a lot of potentially dangerous situations. I describe my job this way. I am a highly paid consultant to my airline. I earn my paycheck twice a year. Now, you might never know that as a passenger, but I earn my entire year's paycheck a couple of times a year on something that required skill, required judgment, it required experience, and just an experienced hand at the wheel. And again, I'm always aided by the best co-pilots in the business. I can't say enough about the 777 pilots that I have too. They're intelligent, they're hard workers, they're just terrific guys and gals. But a couple of times a year. Most of my scary stuff went back on in the Navy days. There were two incidents in particular. One, we landed in a P3 on a rain-slicked runway in the middle of a storm, and we began to hydroplane. Long story short, the airplane came to a stop at the end of a 10,000-foot runway with 1 foot remaining. That's a close call. Was I scared? I was so scared I couldn't stand up and get out of my seat. My knees were literally knocking. So if you've ever heard the expression, my knees were knocking, I didn't know what that meant until that night. My knees were knocking. Fast forward from there, a couple of years, I'm flying King Airs, T-44s down in Corpus Christi, and we're training students now. I'm an instructor at the time. And we got one student out of the seat. We got the next one in. It was time for his ride. And the student before had done an engine out landing prior to this. And we got everything reconfigured. We went through the checklist. We recentered the rudder trim back to 0 where it's supposed to be for takeoff. We're rolling down the runway with a new student. On a prop airplane, you usually put a little bit of right rudder in because the props are turning this way, forcing the airplane this way. So to stay straight, you put in a little bit of right rudder to counteract that. That's normal. I'm tracking along with him, but instead of right rudder, there's left rudder. But we're still tracking straight. I'm like, that's a little odd. But it didn't register with me until we rotated. Once we rotated, the airplane violently yawed to the right. We began to get into what's called a skidded turn stall. That's where the downwind wing is being blocked by the fuselage, and it stops producing lift and becomes what I call a Coke machine. All right? You don't want a Coke machine attached to your airplane. You want a wing that's producing lift. I reached out to the outboard engine. I pulled it back. That's very counterintuitive, but it's part of the training. The airplane began to right itself. Long story short, we never got higher than 200 feet. I was in an absolute panic. We came back and landed the airplane. What was wrong? The rudder got stuck all the way out. That little rudder trim knob that I had turned, the set screw underneath had become loose. And when I turned the knob, it didn't reset the rudder trim. It was all the way out. The rudder got stuck. We almost lost the airplane that day. So again, that was another knee knocking situation. Those are the two. They're all in the Navy. None of them with the airline that I work for today. The airlines are extremely, extremely safe. Trust me on that. All right, next question. Let's see. Is the room you're in a background on a green screen? By the way, loved the Star Wars flight commentary video. All right, that's for my son. He and all of my kids are huge Star Wars fans. I am too, but they're totally into it. And May the 4th, right, comes around every year, the Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And he wanted to make that, and it was brilliant. He wrote a whole long GTSB, the Galactic Transportation Safety Board thing. You got to go look at that video and just go skim through that document. It's an absolute riot. There's all sorts of little gems in that. And Peter, do you want to come and talk about that? Because this is Peter's brainchild.
Yeah,
so.
this is one of those. We have possibly the worst audience ever. We spent way too much time on that video.
We did. We spent a long time putting that video together.
And it is the least viewed video on our entire channel.
Yes.
But I think if you go and watch it, I think it's brilliant. You were incredibly funny in our complete takedown of the inept pilot Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
But it was a lot of fun to make. We would make it again in a heartbeat. And I think it's actually, Kevin, I'd love to have you talk a little bit about some of the things we're going to do going down the road. Right. And trying to always try new things. Because I think a lot of times YouTubers can get stuck making the same video over and over again.
Absolutely.
Talk about what your vision is for always wanting to experiment.
Yeah, so the vision with the channel is this. We want to give you the stuff that you want to see. There's no doubt about that. So we won't stop doing the videos that you love. But for us, just for our brains, if nothing else, we got to mix it up a little bit and put some different stuff out there. So what we call here is throwing spaghetti against the wall, right? We'll mix up a plate of spaghetti. It's something new. We'll give it a try. We'll throw it against the wall. If it sticks, great. If you love it, you can expect more. Ask the Captain is one of those things. Ask the Captain kind of got off to a slow start, but we've got one of them at least that's up around 400,000 views. That's really respectable. And we're building an audience for Ask the Captain. So just like I'm taking live questions now, Ask the Captain is a regular thing that comes out every Monday where I answer about 10 of your questions. So please send your questions in. You might make it on an episode of Ask the Captain. Now, having said that, we need to mix it up here for ourselves and also for you, because there's nothing worse than getting locked into the same formula thing. And then after a while you go, you know what? That channel's just the same old. I'm done with them. We don't ever want to wear out our welcome with you. We want to make sure that we're making it interesting for you, interesting for us. And that way, that keeps us sharp and on our game. Is that kind of...
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, where we're going with
100%. That? 100%. And I think, every couple of months, we're going to try something new. Recently, we put out the video, you reading the letter from 1930. Yeah. Which was an absolute hoot. Right. And very funny. That is outside of our normal mold.
Correct.
But I think it's important that we make things outside of the normal mold. And we look forward to your feedback as an audience to hear what your thoughts are on it. And whether you like it, whether you don't. What should we make more of? And we read the comments. Leave ideas in the comments because we're always looking for new and fresh ideas.
Right. Yeah.
And on the Star Wars video, there is a 43-page detailed NTSB style breakdown of the flight on Dagobah. If you have an afternoon and you just want to have fun laughing, we had fun putting that together. Take a read. It's worth the time.
Yeah, it absolutely is worth it. Thank you, Peter, for joining me. Now, the other question was, is this a green screen background or not? Look at this. This is not a green screen background. This is our 100,000 subscriber deal from YouTube, and we're hoping to get 1 million at some point. I don't want to knock that over. And hopefully not too far into the future. And leave in the comments your ideas about what we should do for 1 million subscriber celebration. If there's any of you out there that own a private jet and you want to jet Captain Steeeve and Mrs. Captain Steeeve and the group out to some exciting location for an all expenses paid 1 million sub celebration, we're going to answer that call. We're going to respond to that email. All right. Now, don't do it unless you're serious about it, but we would love to entertain your ideas about what we should do at 1 million subscribers. We're about 500 away right now, folks. All right. And it's happening quickly. So thanks for those questions. They were really good. All right. Now, that was the one just now. Could using autopilot have saved any of these planes you've recently reported on crashing and killing people? Just wondering to eliminate pilot error from not a pilot. Oh, you're not a pilot. I get it. So the answer to that is, yeah, probably in the Cessna crash off of San Diego last week. I think if he'd grabbed the autopilot, it might have saved the day. That's a possibility in that. Again, we don't have the NTSB report yet. It looks to me, listening to the audio and the flight path of the airplane, that the pilot probably got that vertigo I was talking about earlier. And once you get the vertigo, if you get it bad enough, everything around you starts spinning, and you can't even, your eyes won't even focus on the instruments. So he says, I'm struggling at one point, and he says, I'm trying to maintain heading. He's probably just trying to maintain keep his head from spinning. And once you go up into the clouds and then you spin and come out, and it just makes it worse. And unfortunately, he never did recover. I think if he hit the autopilot and just kind of maybe closed his eyes for a little bit, tried to get his bearings, that might have helped. But I don't know. The airplane might have been so out of control that even the autopilot wouldn't take it over. The autopilot, you kind of got to be level and kind of in smooth flight to engage the autopilot. If you're doing some extreme maneuver, the autopilot will not engage on most airplanes. So love to hear from you Cessna guys, you Twin Engine Cessna guys, about what you think about that as well. Okay. Now, let's see. What is the difference between a Cat 1 ILS approach and a Cat 2 or a Cat 3? So it's the different visibilities, all right, different weather conditions. Most approaches are a Cat 1. They have higher visibility. And on a normal day when there's not a lot of clouds and there's pretty good visibility, you're always going to shoot a Category 1 ILS. That's an instrument landing system. It's very precise. It's land-based. It sends out a signal to the airplane. And I've got glide path, right? Glide path coming down, or glide slope coming down, and glide path back and forth. So I've got lateral navigation. I've got vertical navigation. It's very precise. It puts you right on the numbers on the runway. Now, having said that, Cat 2 and Cat 3 just lower the visibilities. We hardly ever do Cat 2s because if the weather goes bad, it almost goes bad enough to do a Cat 3. A Cat 3 is an approach that you can shoot. Sometimes they have a decision height with them, and you have to have some visual cues. Many times you think of a Cat 3 as an auto land. The two things kind of go together. They're not identical, but they many times go together. So we will prep the airplane to auto land itself if we have Cat 3 minimums. The captain, at least at my airline, always flies that approach. The other pilot monitors the approach. There's certain extra call-outs that you have during that. And, and then you just engage the autopilot and you monitor the airplane all the way down. The airplane will flare itself. It will touch down on the runway. It'll maintain center line. If it doesn't, I simply click off the autopilot and I come back to center line. The only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't bring the engines into reverse. It'll even apply the brakes. It's pretty incredible. I've done an auto land twice in my career. Very rare, but we practice for them every time I go to training. We've got 300 to go, folks, just to let you know. 300 to go. Yes, Peter.
So the green screen question
yes.
is now blown up the comments because people want to know the window.
The window. Okay. So we're blowing up in the comments about the window back here. This is actually, I hate to give away our secrets. This is 3 large screen TVs that were on sale at Target. And they're put vertically, right? And we wanted to make it look like I'm at the airport. And then my producer went around to various airports on his own dime. And he filmed out the window for hours, just standing there while he was sipping a latte, I'm sure. And he got all this footage. I think this is LaGuardia Airport behind us, but we can mix it up. And we'll do that in future videos. We'll have LaGuardia, we'll have the different airports that he went to. And then it looks like I'm sitting in an office, but outside my window is the comings and goings of an airport. My friends, it's all smoke and mirrors. You really don't want to know all of this. But you know what? It gives us a place where we can set up shop and that we can produce a really high quality product for you. And that's our aim. And to do it in a way that you enjoy. All right. So that's a great question. All right. What does ILS mean? Instrument landing system. So it's one of the precision approaches. There's 2 categories of approaches, precision and non-precision, or more specifically, they call them now non-ILS. So ILS is so popular. Most everywhere I go at every major airport, London, Boston, New York, LA, Chicago, they've got multiple ILS approaches to all the different runways. And that's what I'm trained in. That's what I get most often. A non-ILS would be a non-precision approach that doesn't get you quite down as low. Usually the ceiling minimums are a little bit higher. You have to have a little bit more visibility for those. Why would they go to a non-ILS when they've had an ILS? Sometimes the ILS is out of service. Sometimes it's got to get repaired. Sometimes they're just having difficulties with it. So those things have to go under maintenance. And in fact, yesterday or 2 days ago, going into Athens, Greece, they gave us what's called an RMP or an RNAV approach, which is one of those non-ILS approaches. Very easy. We get a lot of training on them, but you set it up on the mode control panel in front of you. The airplane flies it down to a certain point when the pilot is comfortable and he's got visual cues for the runway. He'll click off all the autopilots and then he'll hand fly it down. That implies another question. How often do you hand fly? Most pilots will hand fly the airplane for a little while on takeoff, usually to 10,000 feet or so. After that, you're not really gaining a lot of motor skills by just kind of monitoring the airplane. It's pretty stable. We use autopilot for 90% of the flight. Why? Because if I tried to hand fly an airplane all the way over to London, you would get sick in the back of the airplane. I can't do it as precisely as the autopilot, and I would get exhausted trying to hand fly the airplane that whole time. No reason for that. We turn the autopilot on. Are you worried about the pilot skill level? Don't worry about it. My skills are just fine, because when I come in for my approach at some point, especially if it's in VFR conditions, I can see for a long ways, I will turn off the autopilot and we'll get that thing. I'll hand fly that airplane all the way down. So I keep my skills sharp, especially when I go down for training every year. They really sharpen your skills down there in the simulator. So great question. We got 130 subs to go, so we're ticking down rather quickly now. All right, when any commercial aircraft takes off, is the plane fully fueled, or does it carry basically enough to get to the next stop plus a little reserve? So here's a real layman's explanation of this. We don't carry a lot of extra gas with us. Why? The more weight you carry, the more fuel you're going to burn. So it becomes a self-defeating proposition. The more fuel you carry, the more fuel you have to burn. So the dispatcher at my airline, in conjunction with me, we work out a fuel load for that flight. In general, we want to be able to get all the way to our destination at the weight we're at, the weather conditions, and the route of flight. We need to get to our destination. I need to have enough fuel to shoot an approach to that destination, enough fuel to do a go around, and then fly all the way to the nearest suitable alternate. And that's something that's determined before you take off, or it's updated in flight. I need to get to shoot an approach at that alternate and to go around at the alternate and still have roughly 10% of my fuel remaining. I know my pilot buddies are going to go, oh, it's a lot more complicated than that. Folks, this is just for laymen. About 10% of my fuel after I do all of that maneuvering to my alternate. That's the fuel load we'll take off with from our takeoff airport, right? So again, we got about 50 folks to go here, so hang in there. I'm going to try to get one more question. What's a squawk? All right, that's great, because you hear that expression. The airplane was squawking a certain code. It's called the transponder, and it's a 4-digit code that transmits squawks to the air traffic controller. That's the way he can track me on his screen. He knows it's me by the squawk code, and he gets all sorts of other information, but it's completely independent from all of the radios. So if the radios go bad and there's a problem with that, I can still communicate through the squawk code. You've seen that on several of our videos where they lost comms and they couldn't talk back and forth, and the air traffic controller will say, hit ident, and ident makes that squawk box light up on his screen. And so if the pilot's hearing but can't talk, he just hits that squawk button, and the air traffic controller knows he's at least receiving the instructions. It's a great backup system. Every airplane on the planet that flies has a transponder box with a squawk. We've got about 10 to go. And Peter, my screen just went completely dead.
Oh no.
Yep. Here it is. Okay, it came back up again. That's the extent of my technology. Hey folks, we just hit 500,000 subs. All right. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you so much for the help with this. It's a big deal for us here. We really put a lot of pride into what we do at Captain Steeeve, and we're grateful and thankful for those of you who have joined us on the journey. I hope we're getting you the information you want. You know, when you tune into the regular news broadcasts these days, they try to fit so much into such a short period of time, and they have some, expert on. and they give that expert 90 seconds to talk about a complicated, detailed subject, I think you kind of come to a place like this to go, hey, I want to hear from Captain Steeeve. There are many other great aviation channels out there. And by the way, big shout out to all my colleagues that are doing the same thing. I live in your world. I understand how much work it is to get a good quality product out. So you guys and gals keep doing what you're doing, right? Because the general public, who is generally fearful of flying, needs our voices to help them be reassured that it's safe to go on an airplane. And so folks, I hope we're meeting that mark. I want to do a shout out and thank all the people, Peter, Owen, Chaz, everybody that's helped. My daughter-in-law is coming on here in a couple of months to help with the editing. Her name's Tatum. She's already taken, guys. Sorry about that. She's a cutie. Everybody's coming on. And I want special shout out to the fair and lovely Mrs. Captain Steeeve. She puts up with me disappearing in the middle of the night sometimes. She's put up with me being an airline pilot all these years. And now the Captain Steeeve stuff, sometimes I have to drop what I'm doing and run here into the studio to make a film for you all. So Peter, anything you want to add before we kind of sign off here?
I mean, I think from everyone here at Captain Steeeve, we're thankful for you. We couldn't do this.
Right, we couldn't.
At the level we're doing it and the consistency we're doing it without an audience.
Right.
And I'm thankful for them, but I'm also thankful for you. And a lot of people ask in the comments, is Peter your son? Yeah, Captain Steeeve is my dad. Mm-hmm. And I am beyond thrilled and blessed to be able to do something like this with my dad.
Oh, that's nice.
And
thank you. Give me a hug.
Yeah.
Hairy man. All right.
Yeah. So I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for you, Captain Steeeve. And here's to the next 500,000.
Yeah. Here's to that. And it's been a joy to work with my son so closely because, as your kids become adults, you kind of, they're on with their own lives. And he and I spend a lot of time together, and we work really well together, which is not an easy thing to do. You understand that? So we want to keep giving stuff to you all, and thank you all for 500,000 subscribers. Thanks for your questions today. And we'll do this again, hopefully real soon when we get to 1 million. All right. Now you know. I'm Captain Steeeve. Fly safe.